The day began like any other. The protagonist sat back on the couch, lazily relaxing in the warm glow of the setting sun that poured through the windows. His werewolf girlfriend, fierce and protective, sat beside him, her head on his shoulder, as they enjoyed a peaceful afternoon together. The world outside their little haven was a place of chaos and beauty. But in that moment, everything felt perfect. It was their routine, their time together, their sanctuary from the outside world. But that serenity was about to be shattered. There was a knock at the door. It was a quiet sound, but one that seemed to ring through the room like a warning bell. The protagonist looked at his girlfriend, her eyes flickering with a sudden alertness. She sat up, her posture tense. There was something about this knock that felt off. They were rarely disturbed. The door creaked open, and standing in the doorway was a figure that sent a chill down both their spines. An alien, but not just any alien. This one had feline features, sharp, glowing eyes, sleek fur, and an aura of otherworldly energy. The alien catgirl stood there, gazing at them with an inscrutable expression. "Hello," she purred, her voice smooth like silk, yet there was something sharp beneath it. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." The protagonist blinked, unsure of how to react. The catgirl seemed familiar, yet he couldn't place her. He had never seen her before, not that he could remember. She had an otherworldly beauty, and a sense of dominance that was impossible to ignore. "My name is Lyra," she continued, stepping inside without an invitation. "I've come to speak with you." The protagonist exchanged a look with his werewolf girlfriend, whose jaw clenched. Something was off about this alien. Something was wrong. He could feel the tension building in the room. The werewolf's gaze never left Lyra, her instincts on high alert. "Why are you here?" the werewolf asked, her voice low but filled with authority. Her eyes flashed, and for a moment, her wolf nature almost broke free. The catgirl smiled in response, but it was a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, I'm just here to visit," Lyra replied, smoothly, her eyes flicking briefly to the protagonist, before returning to the werewolf. "I've heard so much about you, and I wanted to see for myself." The werewolf stiffened, clearly uncomfortable with the intrusion. Lyra was being too forward, too comfortable in their space, and it was clear she had an agenda. The protagonist tried to keep the peace, but something about the way Lyra was acting made it impossible. The situation was spiraling into something dangerous, but neither woman would back down. "Who are you really?" the werewolf demanded. Her voice was almost a growl now, the alpha in her showing. Lyra leaned forward, her voice lowering. "Dangerous now. I am someone who has been sent to test you." The words hit like a slap to the face. The protagonist's heart skipped a beat. "Test her?" he repeated, confused. Lyra's gaze lingered on the werewolf, and she smiled again. But this time, it was full of something darker. "Yes, I've been watching you both. I wanted to see if you were worthy of his affection, to see if you were truly strong enough to be with him." The werewolf's expression hardened, her protective instincts flaring. "You have no right to challenge me." "I don't need your permission," Lyra replied, her voice dripping with confidence. "I am the superior being here. I have abilities you can't even begin to comprehend." Before the protagonist could step in, the situation escalated. The catgirl stepped closer, and the werewolf's claws extended, her body tensing in preparation for a fight. The room seemed to crackle with tension as the two women sized each other up. "Stop!" the protagonist shouted, trying to intervene. "We don't need to fight. This doesn't have to go any further." But his words were ignored. Lyra's eyes flashed with a dangerous light, and suddenly she leapt toward the werewolf, her claws aimed directly at her. The werewolf, agile and strong, countered instantly, knocking Lyra aside with a force that rattled the walls. The battle had begun. Fur and claws flew as the two powerful beings clashed. The werewolf's raw strength met the catgirl's alien agility and telekinetic abilities. The catgirl used her powers to send furniture flying, hurling it like weapons at the werewolf, but the werewolf was quick. Her strength and speed were her advantages, and she fought back with a fury that was almost uncontrollable. The protagonist stood frozen, unsure of what to do. He tried to stop them, but they were too far gone. The women were locked in a battle that neither seemed willing to stop. Furniture was destroyed. The apartment felt like it was about to collapse under the weight of their fury. In the midst of the chaos, the protagonist finally managed to shout, "Enough!" The words caught their attention, but only for a moment. Both women were panting heavily, their bodies bruised and battered, but neither was willing to relent. "Why are you doing this?" the protagonist asked, his voice a mix of anger and confusion. Lyra sneered, wiping blood from her lip. "I'm not doing this for you," she spat. "I'm doing this to prove that I am the better match, to prove that I'm the one who deserves to be with you." The werewolf growled, her voice like thunder. "You're a fool if you think you can win me over with jealousy and violence." For a brief moment, the tension between the two women simmered. It wasn't just about the protagonist anymore. It was about power, pride, and the truth that neither one of them could face. They were both stronger than they realized, and they both wanted the same thing. The protagonist, realizing this, stepped forward, his voice firm. "I won't choose between you two, but this fighting has to stop. We're stronger together than we are apart." The room fell silent. For the first time, the werewolf and the alien catgirl locked eyes, and there was a flicker of understanding. They weren't enemies after all. They were forces of nature, both powerful and proud, both deserving of respect. The question wasn't who was stronger. It was who could learn to trust each other. The two women stood in silence for a long moment, their fierce rivalry still palpable. But now there was something else, a hint of respect. They both turned their attention to the protagonist, and in that moment, they knew that whatever came next, they would have to face it together. The next few days were filled with uneasy tension as the three of them worked together. But as the days passed, their differences began to fade. The werewolf and the alien catgirl, once bitter rivals, found common ground. They both shared the same goal, to protect the protagonist and face the challenges ahead. Their bond, forged in the heat of battle, grew stronger with each passing day. In the end, they were no longer enemies. They were allies. Together, they stood stronger than ever, ready to face whatever challenges the universe would throw their way.